So you need to learn about the invoice and data Firebase.
Yeah, that's what we're on today. Okay, guys. Just while we are greeting our friends arriving, you'll notice there's a big fucking hole in our computer lineup here. Okay? So if you hear of anything, somebody boosted these computers, all right? So, like, what I would say is if you hear of anything about this, talk to security because they're screwing you over, right? When I got here today, the doors are all locked up. And so now they're not letting people into the labs unless you've got a security card, which is going to make it a hell of a lot harder to come in here and do work, you know? So some assholes have screwed you over. Testing. Audio. Test. Testing audio. Test. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay. Hello. Nice work this week. All right? Good job. You worked very hard. Okay, guys, shall we begin? So, as folks arrive, hopefully they will be able to keep up, because we've got a fair amount of stuff to do today. We're making good progress on this invoice that we've been working on. So first off, I want to talk a little bit about why I have selected doing an invoice as a project. And it basically comes down to this. I really want you guys to get used to thinking more about software than websites and web pages. Okay? So I notice even now, and I was comparing with Adam and Devin on their notes as well, that people generally, when they have some initiative to work on a project, they immediately start working on essentially a website, web pages. And quite often, they default to working on something like a portfolio site or something like that. But my position on this is like, things have changed a lot. If that's what you wanted, you could have used Wix. You know what I'm saying? You could have done something like that and saved yourself a big bunch of money and time. And clients are feeling the same quite often. Like, I remember when I first started working in this stuff, nobody would use WordPress. No client would even consider doing it. It was utterly not done. You would be ridiculed if you tried to do that. But they have changed their tune, right? Because one, it's gotten a lot better. And like two, they've realized that it can do what they need and they will save a lot of money. They're generally not going to custom design a site anymore. If they do, then they're going to, they're going to lose out to their competitors because they're going to pay a lot of money to custom build something, all right? So the skills that we are learning, I really want you to get away from thinking, you know, how do I build a web page or a website with these skills? We're learning React, you know, we're learning Firebase. These are things that can be used to build things that are actually useful. Even when I was in the advertising world, when I worked in an agency, I didn't accelerate my career by focusing on ad stuff, web pages and so forth. I accelerated my career by focusing on productivity software. I built software that automated a lot of the tedium of building ads. That boosted my career big time. Like I shot up from a 3-day contract to being the head of all engineering within 2 years by putting my focus on that. It should give you an idea of what's more valuable here. You know what I mean? So I thought, you know, how can we shift the focus more towards building useful things? An invoice makes a lot of sense because that's an application you need. Even if you do decide that you just want to build web pages and you're going to go build sites and so forth, that's cool. You're still going to need to invoice people. You want to get paid, right? You got to get paid somehow. So I thought, you know, let's do this assignment of an invoice. So I'm super happy to see a lot of people took that pretty seriously and put a lot of good design work into that invoice. And there's a reason why. An invoice isn't just about getting you paid. It is the last communication that you will have with that client, and in some cases, the only communication you'll have with the person in charge of the money, right? The rest of the project, you're dealing with, you know, maybe a creative director, art director, some developers, and so forth. Those guys don't decide if you work with that client again. It's the person in charge of this that's going to make that decision if you're going to work with them again. And in many cases, the invoice is the only thing they'll see from you. So in some cases, it's kind of like a re-invitation to work with you again. So it's got to be good, you know? It's got to give a good impression of you. So it should have a bit of personality in it, which is, you know, I saw a lot of that going in, which is great. But it's also got to be pretty professional. You got to use your problem-solving skills a little bit here. So think of some of the things that would need to go into a proper invoice. There's the basics, you know. You're going to need an invoice number. You don't want them thinking like, this is the only invoice you've sent all year. You know what I mean? So like make it 00101 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like start it there. Don't start it at like invoice number 1. They're going to be like, oh my God, we're screwed. You know, like that's just like a little tip, you know. It's fairly relevant too because like coincidentally this last week, Devin had to design an invoice. She'd take on a freelance job outside of Oddly. And so it's the first time she's actually had to design an invoice. So some of the other things I was suggesting is like, usually your invoice is not going to be a single invoice. It's going to be maybe 2 or 3 invoices for the project. So make sure that you create a link between those invoices by saying like 1 of 2, if it's the one that you're sending to start the project. You know what I mean? You typically going to want to send an invoice at the beginning of the project to kick things off. You should try and get some money up front. And most clients, if they're not like an agency, will do that. Agencies will never do that, so it's just not going to happen. So, but typically you're going to want to do this stuff direct with a client of some kind. And then when you send the second one, you want to refer back to the first one to say that this is 2 of 2 and put in a note field the invoice number of the first one. It's really important. Because by doing this, you're going to create a trail between these invoices. Otherwise, it's very, very easy for your invoice to get lost in the administration. So you want to make sure that they know that these are both part of, you know, what they need to pay you. And then there's other things as well. You could put a little description of what the project was, you know, so that they don't have to go and look something up. Anything you can do to ease the process of getting yourself paid is good. Because any little thing that's missing from there, well, some folks will use it as an excuse to not pay you. And you send your late notice and you send your second late notice, and then you finally talk to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, it was missing this thing, so we didn't know what to do. And then they'll ask you, send us another one. And they'll want to kick off the 30, 60, or 90-day process all over again. So you may wind up not getting paid for months if you're not like spot on with this invoice. You see what I'm driving at there? So there is some thinking in it. There's some problem solving that you got to do. I think some of you guys did a bit of research with some Google images to find like some examples of nice invoice designs, which is pretty great to see. So we're going to keep working on that for the next couple classes. Today, we are going to kind of try and start bringing it full circle here, because your invoice is going to be populated from a Firebase database. We're going to make it dynamic. So you may find that you have to go back and revise a little bit in your invoice. If some of the areas are not using props yet or not using state, then you might need to go back and do a little bit of work to make it dynamic. So today we're going to work on the other side of things, which is how do you get the information into Firebase, right? So we've seen how to get it out. We haven't seen how to put it in yet. So this is going to take us into user interaction. How do we create things that people can actually work with? So here's what I'm thinking. And hopefully your design is in a good place responsively. We were trying to stress that. But we're going to basically create like a 2-column kind of thing here. And on the left-hand side, we're going to put the invoice entry. So we'll basically create like a form over here that'll have everything you need basically and a submit button to create an invoice. And on the other side here, we're going to drop in your design for your invoice. And you'll see that, you know, between these two things, you've got a pretty nice little application going on here, because you'll be able to review in real time what your invoice looks like while you're creating it, which is pretty nice. Now, if we were to go bananas on this thing, we can even go so far as, you know, putting a button on there to actually send a notification to that client. So if we put like an email address field in here, you could say, yeah, it looks good, and send it off to them. And it would give them a link where they would log in to view their invoice. That would be like a pretty good piece of software, I think. Really good demo of your abilities. But we'll go step by step. So the first thing is just, you know, can we make this form that gets the info in Firebase and have it showing up on the other side here? So I think what we'll do today is we'll just drop like a little unstyled debugging type of component on the right-hand side here that'll just show you if the information is going in Firebase or not. And then it'll be your job to take that and drop your actual invoice design in there. Sounds fun, right? Who knew invoices could be so action-packed, right? So we've got a lot of stuff to do. So let me get my system fired up, get the projector going, and we will dive in with no hesitation. Sure. I mean, I'm struggling a bit today myself. So, yeah. Today you'll create a new pen. We're going to start from a new pen today. And then we'll sort of work backwards to take your design you've made and implement it. But get yourself a new pen started, submit that. Then give yourself what you need, like your script tags. Grab all your script tags for React, React DOM, style components, Firebase. Basically, you can copy that from your lab 4 and bring it over. Now, while you're doing that, a couple other little cool announcements. Guys heard of Anchor? Oh, let me get my projector going. What's up, my friend? Good, good. So little side note while you're getting set up there. We have a new show on Anchor FM.
Oh, really?
Yep. Called Tech Drops. So if you haven't heard of it, this new app called Anchor is like a kind of new type of streaming radio. It's pretty cool. I've been messing around with their app. It's starting to get popular. It's pretty neat. It's a little different from podcasting. It's a little bit more like radio. So if you do check it out, then we've got a station called Tech Drops. And it's basically conversation about trends in the industry, where development's going, technology and that kind of stuff. So I'll plug that. You'll hear some little clips that Devin pulls out of class, actually. Basically like shit Tim says that she sticks in there from time to time. It's pretty fun. So you might enjoy it. So it's Anchor FM/Tech Drops. Their desktop, like their site, it's a little like, it needs a few things, but the app is pretty cool. So you might want to check out the app. So we're on Lab 5 today. I believe you should be able to submit. I think I finally got the day right. It is the 18th today, right? Oh my God, don't mess with me. So we're making a new pen, and you're just grabbing your script tags from the previous lab, because we'll need the Firebase stuff again. Let me do the same. Dive into my professor mode session. I'm just going to grab a few things from the previous lab. So let me go to lab 4 here. Grab some stuff out of here. Going to need the HTML here.
I have a quick question on that.
Mm-hmm.
In the smart component,
Yeah.
you said the container is about the information and minions is for the styling.
Yeah.
And then what's the greeting? Greeting is the second styling.
Greeting is a minion. Yeah, when I'm saying minion, I'm really talking about the stateless function. So any one of those that we created starting with const and not with class. So the class-based ones, those are like our smart components, the stateful ones. But the other ones we've made are all what they call stateless. I just call them minions for fun.
And when I put the styling code, or like a constant, something like that, Google style, div or
Yeah.
section, something like that, and just to put the outside of the minions, and then in the Blender constant, I used to put there the container, and then I can put my style constant in the container. So
Yes,
yeah, then
exactly. The container winds up just being like a list of your stateless functions, basically.
and there is a then if I do like that, then I don't need a minion, right?
Well, really, minion doesn't mean anything. You should really be saying stateless function. Yeah. So any of those components that we've started by saying const are a stateless function because they have no state. They only have props. But the other one that we created with a class has a state. and it also has a life cycle. Things like component will mount, a constructor, and there's a few more that we can use as well. But you'll notice the other ones, they don't have that. They only have props and a render. So they're much more simple. I call them minions just because it helps me remember that they do all the work. But they're not like that smart. So they have no memory, they have no state, no life cycle. But they just put things on the screen and make them look nice.
Have you seen the part 3 of the movie?
Not yet. I want to see it. Okay, let me move over some HTML here. Boom. Don't forget to turn on your Babel, guys. That's easy to forget. Yeah, so we're going to turn that on. There we go. I'll grab just a little bit of CSS, like my CSS reset. I don't need too much here. Just grab this stuff, plunk it in there. Most of the CSS is happening with styled components now. So I'm in a pretty good place to begin. But before I go too far, we're going to get you to set up your own Firebase app today. So you'll want to log into your Firebase account. So last week you basically learned how to connect to my app and load stuff from my app. We'll get you set up with your own today.
Tim,
Yep.
when we did it with a different professor last time, there was a certain function that he turned off that would allow you to...
Yes, we'll do that too. It's in the security rules.
Yeah.
They used to just leave it open by default, but now they close everything by default, so we'll have to open it up. So let's do it. Let's go. I'm going to go to my Firebase.
And this is lab 4, right?
5. We're on 5. Yeah. Time is flying, eh? I mean, basically, tomorrow we'll be like halfway through, essentially. That's amazing, eh? So let me make a new project here. Is everybody logged into Firebase? Go ahead and get yourself logged in. And I'm going to make a new one as well, so I can do the same thing you guys are doing. While you're doing that, I'll just make sure the stream is okay. It looks like it.
So you want to add a project, right?
Yeah. Firebase is connected with Google now, so basically you need a Google account in order to use Firebase. But I think pretty much everybody has some Gmail account now. Once you're logged in, you're going to click on the Add Project. So I'll do the same. I'm going to add a project. So you should make it some kind of unique name for yourself, because this is going to be a unique ID for it. The convention is to use like your website for it. So I usually stick the word oddly in there somewhere, just so to distinguish it from other people's Firebase applications. So maybe I'll call it like oddly invoice. Now for region, it's not a big deal when you're just like messing around, but this is actually something really important they've added here. If you ever work on a project that has some kind of like contest or anything like that in it, region is very important, because the law is that like you must base the server that you're running that contest on within the legal region that you're running. Covers you in the legal requirements for running a contest. Or, if it's US based, you can do that too. But Let's do Canada. The US is having issues right now. There's Grant. Whoa, what did I pick? Burkina? I don't know where that is. Anyone from Burkina? No? Anyone know? Okay, then let's go Canada. So I create my project. Now, if the name you're picking is already taken, it'll let you know. But usually, if you stick your domain in there, you'd be all right. So there I am. Now, to Mike's point, there's something we have to do first of all. If you go over to the database here, the second tab is called Rules. And you're going to need to go in there, into the rules. And this is how we write the security and access rules for Firebase. It's pretty cool how they do it here. You can write it all as JSON, which is very unique. Like, I don't know of another database that handles security this way. So right now, it's saying, like, nobody's allowed to read or write to any part of this database. Well, that makes it kind of useless for us. So let's change this. We'll say read and write. We'll set them both to true. Now that means it's going to be completely open and it'll give you a little warning. But I usually do work this way. And then just because it's more convenient, and then once my application starts to hit a point of maturity, I'll go in and start turning security back on to protect access. But for now, let's make it totally open. And you're going to need to hit the publish button up top here. So this is a Boolean, basically, true or false. So I'm setting it to true, hitting publish. And so it's giving me the warning, just saying, hey, this is all public. Anybody can do stuff in here, but it's okay. All right. So once that is done, we are going to need our key. So if you click back on the overview button, that'll basically take us home again. And you see the third option here? So like Firebase has libraries for pretty much anything you want to do, iOS or Android. We're working on a web application. So you're going to click on the Add Firebase to your web app. And it will give you a handy little snippet of code that has your access key. So clicking here. And we don't need the whole thing. We don't need the script tags. We just need this little part here, the config, and then the Firebase initialize app. So we'll grab that little chunk, head on back to our project, and drop it in right at the top. The over on the script tags here, you should have a script tag that is loading in the Firebase JS there. For me, it's line 10. Let me make this a little bigger. And just like that, you are ready to rock the Firebase.
Sorry, Tim, it's the first one, right? The one at the top.
Right.
Static, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so you want the config, and then you want the Firebase initialize. Now we already, if you didn't do it already, you could grab this script tag and drop it in your HTML, but you've probably got it already from last time. I basically just copied mine over from Lab 4. So once you've got that, I recommend just take a quick look in your console just to make sure you got nothing weird showing up. It'll let you know if that Firebase initialize app is not working. So I think you're okay. That sounds like crap just coming from CodePen. So. Oh, I don't see it. Are you in the right professor mode session? Yeah, you at the lab 5. Okay, let's take a quick look here. Okay, this is looking okay to me. Any errors? Something in your HTML. Think you have something in your HTML.
I think the Firebase thing is missing there.
I see this one. Oh, you have an extra script tag, an open script tag with no close. There you go. Did you see that?
I should have to hit the run 2 on the top.
Right at the bottom there, Winland, you've got an extra script tag opening. Yeah. And then I think you should be all right. Yeah, looks like that's good. Oh, and don't forget to hit run, because you've got the auto update turned off. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, so far so good. So, so why don't we do this, guys? Let's kind of flesh out our little 2-column layout that we're going to do here. So we've previously made some styled components. We made one called page, we made another one called row, and we made one called column. So I would say let's get those and bring them into this project just so we can divide this page in half here. I think I will grab mine from my Transformers example. Get on over to my lab 2. So if you guys have some time that you can dig into some of these transformer examples here, you'll find a lot of goodies. One thing a lot of people were asking about is images, like doing responsive images. Inside of here, this image is being done with a component called Hero. Pretty handy little component. So while I'm in here, maybe I can just show you that. We'll just take 1 second. Yep. So this is it. It's actually pretty small. It's just a styled div with the width set to 100%. And then right here, this is where the magic is happening, right? Because I'm using this little ternary operator we learned about to say, if there's a source prop, use that. But if not, here's a default image you can use. And that image is just like an under construction. So if I go down, and then the other trick here is setting the background size to cover, right? Cover basically rescales your image, but keeps the aspect ratio the same. And it tries to fill up as much space as it can inside the div we're using here. So it's a great way of doing responsive images. You may lose a little bit around the edges, but you'll never see like those nasty black bars or anything like that. You know what I mean? So if I go down to where I'm using the hero, if I remove that source property right here, so let's say I take this source prop out of here. There we go. It defaults to my under construction, right? I like to do this because like then I've always got some image to use as a placeholder, and I can do my design fast and just drop this component anywhere I want to put an image, and then I can go back and start populating the source attribute and put the actual images I want to use in. So that's a nice little component that you might want to grab. Actually, I think you're using that, aren't you, Emmett?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So that's one endorsement. All right, let me grab a row and a column and a page out of here. So page is very straightforward. Let's take a quick look here. It's just a style div with 100% width, but then we've set the display to flex, and we've set the flex direction to column. That's usually what you're going to want to do with your page, because generally pages do stack up vertically, don't they? We have our menu bar, then we have our hero, then we have a couple of columns underneath. They're all sitting on top of each other. So the top element, the page, we usually want to set that to column. So let me grab that, bring it into today's stuff. Just like that. The other one that I think we are going to need would be the row. I'll slow down in just a second here in case you didn't have this in your project. But here's something I wanted to point out. We're doing a couple of nice little tricks with our row here. First off, I've put an option into the padding here. So rows, they're going to go side by side. So if we look down this page here, we've got an example. See how these columns are side by side? This means that these guys are inside of a row. All right? So there's a row component, and then one column and another column. The whole trick is learning out how to plan your rows and columns, because everything in HTML is a box, right? So you can pretty much make any layout you want just by nesting columns in rows and rows inside columns, and all of that inside of the page component. So right here, I'm saying, well, some of these, I want to optionally be able to give them some space. Because see, otherwise they'd be like right jammed beside each other here. I wanted to give a little padding between them. So my component now has an attribute called space. And if it sees a space property, I can set how much padding I want on this column here. But otherwise it'll default to 0. Right? So if I don't give it any kind of space property, it's going to have no space at all, padding 0. Does that make sense, what I'm saying there? Yep. So if we look at each of our items inside of our row here, if I want to have some spacing around it, probably I'm going to use padding. A little inside tip, use margin as little as possible. Okay, margins will screw you over, right? They're very unpredictable. But padding, because I did in my little CSS reset, I said box sizing, border box. The padding is very predictable. It will always expand inwards. It will never try and push outwards and suddenly screw up my layout. Okay, so wherever you can, use padding. Avoid margins. So right here, I'm saying if I want some spacing around my content, let's give this row component a prop called space. And space I can give a value. Let me show you where I'm using it. It'll start to make more sense. So for instance, this row right here, no space, right? So it's going to have a padding of 0. No space around the outside of this row. But if we keep looking down, we'll probably find a row. Yeah, here's one. See how I'm saying space to EM, right? Well, let's look at it again. So see how I've got 2 props here? One called space, one called stack. So let's go back up to row. Because this row, man, like it's such a handy little component. Let's go take a look at that guy again. Right up here. So right here, I'm saying, let's look into props. So what props am I using in my example right now? Space, yep. And the other one? Stack, yeah, exactly. So right here, I'm saying, look at the props. Do you have a prop called space? If you do, whatever value it was, in this case 2em, should get applied to the padding. It will literally take this whole little chunk here and replace it with my 2em. See how that works? It's an expression. It's a JavaScript expression, so it will evaluate to 2em. But if I didn't give it any space property, I can give it a default to say, just set the padding to 0. You know? So I'm doing something similar with one more trick right down here. Now this is beautiful. I love that I can do this. I'm nesting inside of my component here a media query. So like usually you have to create your media queries totally separately. You go down to the bottom of your CSS page, you make your media queries, but you really have not that much control over them. You have to plan them really carefully. This media query will only ever affect the row, right? That's nice, because you have no guessing of what this media query is going to affect. It's only going to affect this row here. Why? Well, because it's actually nested inside of our little accent grave here. Other than that, I'm once again looking in the props, right? So this is a nice trick here, because when you're doing responsive design, typically you can cover a lot of your responsive just by stacking things, right? Things that are side by side, when you get onto a small screen, stack them vertically. It's usually going to look pretty good. So what I'm doing here is saying, when the media query kicks in, take a look at the props and see if you should stack or not. If there's no stack prop, it doesn't bother. It still tries to keep them side by side. So now I can choose which of my rows should stack when the screen gets small. Very, very handy. So I'm going to grab that one as well. I'll grab the row. As I mentioned, I'll slow down in a second here in case anybody needs to grab some of these things. But let me get my row and bring that over into my new page here. Boop. And then the last one that I want is the column. Column's a little more straightforward here. I'm doing that spacing trick again, you know, in case I want spacing on my columns. That's actually what's going on here. First off, I've given space to the row. So this outside space is being added to the row itself. But then each of my columns in here, I'm giving some space as well, which is why there's like space in between here. So, you know, it's a few small tricks, but it gives you a lot of flexibility in your design. So I like it. You know, it's all based on the Flexbox. If I would give one piece of advice to anybody interested in design, it's like practice your Flexbox all the time, every day. Like all responsive design is being done with the Flexbox now. So let me grab this column. Column. Bring that over as well. Boom. And then I think we are pretty ready to go here.
Column as well, right?
Yeah.
So page, row, and column here?
Yeah, so I've got page, row, and column. Let's test this. Let's make a really simple little two-page layout. I'll give you a second in case you need to grab any of this stuff here. I think we're good on the HTML. I'll just close that up for now. Have a little more room. So these three, you know, these are going to be the basis of your design. I think you guys have used Bootstrap before, right? Yeah. Use that a little bit. I mean, it's not that different from what Bootstrap's doing, is it? You know, Bootstrap is all column-based as well. So there is some similarity there. But with styled components, we have a lot more flexibility. Like inserting something like this, not really something we can do in Bootstrap. It's all declarative with Bootstrap. Question?
Don't we need the span still?
Oh, good call. I want a span. So I actually used this in some of my example pens with you guys. I've got this other little helper here. Where is he? He's very small, but he's super useful. I think it's called I called it a flex span. Yeah, this guy right here. This one right here. So where do we use this flex span? Well, let's say I've got a menu bar, right? And I've got some nav links. But one of them I want to stick over here. The flex span, if we put it in the lineup here, his job is just to grow as fat as he can, right? So he's going to sit there eating all the space until he gets really fat and pushes a space in between these. So if you can relate to the flex span, I hear you. The way we do it is by setting flex to 2 here. By default, all flex children have flex property of 1. So they all try and take up the same amount of space. By doubling it, we're basically saying take as much as you can. It's a ratio that it's based on. Yeah, so let's grab him. He could be useful. Flex span.
Flex it up.
Yep. We are ready to flex. There we go. Okay. So let's bust down our page here.
So basically, I'm just saying the obvious. You can design your own components, anything you're working on, and they pretty much stay standard. It's kind of like, I don't know, a good example maybe is probably in, I don't say Photoshop or Illustrator, where you can actually preset swatches and preset certain things,
yes.
preset margins, InDesign actually, sorry. And then bring them in and it'll just customize.
That is the idea. Yeah, exactly. So for instance, this menu bar we're talking about, I made a couple of styles of it. Now I can just reuse them forever. You know, I don't have to make them again, which is great. These three, this page, column, and row, I can use them forever. You know, so it is all about reuse of this stuff.
What you do is you save a template and you just go back to it and just grab it and pull it off.
Yeah, in fact, I can show you guys a little trick. Let's say you are happy with your page, column, and row here and your flex and you want to use them again. You can actually take the URL of the pen. So like if I make a new pen here, let me show you what I mean. Just to demo this. So if I make a new pen here, inside the JavaScript setup here, you can actually put a pen URL in here, right? So I could take this one that has my components I like, copy it, and stick it in here, and now all those components will be available in this pen. Yeah, it's just like doing a script tag with JavaScript. That's pretty cool, right? So if you can make a nice little library of stuff that you want to use and just keep it in that pen. So like on my, I'll show you where I'm doing that in my own, not my Oddly, but my own CodePen. So a lot of my examples, let's see, a lot of my examples have these styles on it here and this heading and stuff like that. all those styles are in one pen. And then I'm just sticking that pen URL into the JavaScript links there. So then they just automatically pick up my styles, which is pretty nice. So good trick to know about.
Does that work outside of CodePen?
It does. It does. You can put the pen URL. Actually, let me show you that. So let's say I grab, well, basically any pen. If you just put an extension on the end, like I say .js, there's the JavaScript. So you could take this and put it in a script tag and be loading in your JavaScript from your pen. That's pretty nice, right? It also works for the CSS and the HTML. So I just put a little CSS on the end. There's the CSS. I put in HTML. There's the HTML. And the other thing that is nice about it is the preprocessor. Like, for instance, we're working in Babel here. If I put in the .js, I get the processed version of the JavaScript, right? So the Babel compilation has already happened with what we are looking at right here. So it's a way of getting Babel or Sass files or anything like that in their processed version that you can bring into any project you want. And now you don't have to install preprocessors on your desktop. So those are good things to know about. Super handy. Alrighty. So let's make a simple little component here that's going to be our user interface. Shall we start with that? So let's do it. Let's say const. Maybe I just call it like UI. And well, I think we'll make this one a stateless function for now. So that means I can put a return in here, and now I can start fleshing this thing out. So let's see what this is going to look like. First off, I'll make my page. So page is one of my styled components, isn't it? It's this one up here, this top one. So he's automatically going to be 100% wide. He'll have all his margins killed, so our CSS reset basically. And he's going to be set to column to stack things on top of each other. That's pretty good. So what if, here, let's sketch it, because these are pretty important concepts here. So we've made our page, right? So here's our page, just like this. Hold on. Just like this. He's 100% wide, and he's set to stack things on top. Hold on. He's set to stack things on top of each other, right? Because he's set to column. So we've got just an empty canvas to work with here. So typically the way it's going to work, you'll find this pattern over and over and over again. Inside of a column, you'll put a row. Inside of a row, you'll put a column. Inside a column, you put a row. You know, you go back and forth like that. So let's put a row inside of here. Oop. And this will be able to turn into something like a menu bar if we want. Maybe for now, just so we can see what we're doing, let's put just like a little H1 or something. You know, you're almost always going to need some kind of a menu bar, so it's good to put that in there. Let's get them showing up on screen. What do I need, guys?
Render.
Yeah. So let's get our React DOM rocking, and we'll put in the render. We're going to put in our UI. Let's see where I can drop this guy. I think I've got a div called app. Yeah, right there. So let's go to the query selector. So, I got an error.
Oh, you didn't say document.
Style. Oh, I'm missing one thing. I forgot at the top to create the styled library. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So my style components aren't going to work until I do that. So I got to be like, oh, let's see. How did we do that? Let's take a look. Yeah, there we go. That's the one. How could I forget that? There we go. I think that should fix me up. Let's see. What? Oh, document. Oh my God. Okay, if you're watching the stream, this ain't me. I've been replaced. I've been replaced by an evil Tim. I was just so thrown off by our computers getting jacked. My state of mind is all wrong. So there we go, right? So this guy, he's 100% wide. Because he's a row, he's going to take as much room as he can. Great. So the next thing we would probably do, guys, is drop another row right underneath of him. So let's put another row. You know, it's almost like a spreadsheet, right? And let's put a couple of headings in here as well. So I'm going to say H3 column 1. I'm going to get into my 2 column layout here. And I'll put another H3, and we'll see how we can turn this into a 2 column. Okay. So they are side by side, right? But here's what I'd suggest. Right here, we're going to put a column inside of our row. Now columns, they stack things on top of each other, right? So I'm basically saying that I want this first column to stack. And see how it automatically pushed the second one over? Because only the first one is wrapped in a column right now. So he's trying to take all the flex room. So he's pushing over the other guy. So here's how we fix that. So we make them even. I'm going to put him in a column as well. Then they'll split the space evenly because they're both columns. There we go. It's not bad, right? You know? So anything else I put in this column now is going to stack up underneath of my heading. That's what we want. So over here, we're going to put our little form that connects to Firebase and puts the information for the invoice in. Over here, we'll have our demo of the invoice itself in our nice responsive design. We'll be able to see, like, as you're updating it, your invoice is updating.
What
It'd be pretty good.
should we do in the column 1?
In column 1, we're going to create an interface that will put the info into Firebase. So this will push it in. This will show it coming out. We're making pretty good progress here. Oh, you got a problem? Let's check it out. Was that Wyndham? Okay. All right, let's take a quick look here. Okay. Let's see, anything in here? Oh, you have a typo. You have styled dive, but you went div. Ah, right there. Little typo on div. Boop. There we go. Let's see how that worked. We'll hit the run. There we go. You were right there. Ooh. At the halfway point, can somebody signal me about doing a quick break? Just because I gotta change the batteries. I'm getting low. Want me to check it out? Yeah, let's take a look. Professor Mode. Oh, we got a couple here. Let's take a look at Sunday. Oh, this looks good to me. Looks all right. I wonder if you've dropped offline. Are you maybe do a quick refresh? Oh, and I'll hit the run button. Oh, and don't forget to hit the run button. Because you've got, if you want to not have to hit the run all the time, if you go to settings right here, and you go to behavior, you can switch on the auto update. Then you don't have to hit the run all the time. I usually only switch that off when I'm writing the parts that talk to the database, you know, because it can mess you up then. Let's take a look at, I think we had another caller on the helpline here. Nida, let's take a look at Nida's stuff. This looks pretty good to me, Nida.
I just fixed it.
Oh, well then. Fantastic. So you guys feeling those rows and columns, right? They making sense? Okay, cool. Like pretty much anything you want to make is going to involve those. All right. So I think we're ready to start work on that left-hand column there. Maybe I'll just update this heading to indicate what we're doing. So I'll say, you know, enter invoice here. And column 2 is going to be like for viewing the invoice. View, invoice, preview over here. And let's start work on a simple little form here. And it's going to sit right underneath of this H3. So here's what I suggest. Let's make it a component. We're going to say const form equals styled dot form. Now what we're doing here is called component overloading, right? You can, the important thing here is like up to now we've just kind of like styled spans and divs and things like that. But you can style anything you want, including the components built in, like buttons, input fields, and even full forms here. So you'll notice like the convention is to take the same element that you're overloading here, but just give it a capital letter. So when you see that capital letter, you know that it's a component rather than the regular HTML form. All right? So let's put a couple of things in here. First off, I'm going to set this guy to display flex because I'm making basically like, I want the elements of my form to stack on top of each other. So if I want to stack on top of each other, which flex direction should I be using?
top? I don't know.
There is no top value for flex direction.
Row.
It's going to be one of those.
Row.
No, it's the other one. Yeah, yeah. Column is vertical, and row is like side by side. And I'm basically want to have my input fields go on top of each other rather than having like a big wide form here. So we'll set it to column. The other thing I'm going to do, this is kind of optional, but I'm going to restrict the width of this. You may or may not stay with this. You might make it more responsive, but this is just kind of how I did. Okay, so what do we have inside of a form, guys? Think of every form you've ever used.
Input field.
Input field, yep. Radio button is possible, yep.
Button.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to need some kind of submit button. So since we're going to need those things, why don't we bust out a couple more component overload while we're here. I'll make a, whoop. Let's do a button. We know we need that for sure. So let's go const submit button equals styled. Now here's the tricky thing, right? In a form, a button, the submit button, is just another input, actually. So we're going to overload an input, and I gave it a couple of values. I used 50% width, and gave it a little bit of padding all the way around. Just a couple of basic little things. And then the other thing we're going to need for sure is like some kind of input fields. So let's make an input field component. And this is also going to be a styled input. And again, we'll just give a couple of little default properties. We'll make it 100% wide. Like, I'm setting it 100% wide because my form, I'm already restricting its width to 300 pixels. So basically, my input field is going to come out to 300 pixels, just minus any padding, margin type of stuff like that. Okay, I mean, this is probably enough to get started with our form here. I would say maybe one more thing, which would be a label. Because we're typically going to add labels to any of our fields, right? So let's make a form label. And it's up to us. I'll make mine like an H4. And I'm going to give it like just a little bit of margin to offset it. Something like that. That's pretty decent. Okay. So we're in pretty good shape to start assembling this form. Here's how it's going to work. We've got our 2-column. And this form is going to need to talk to Firebase, right? When we're entering in the information, we're doing that so we can submit it into Firebase. Which means this guy is going to need to be a smart component. He needs that life cycle. He needs a state. So we're going to make a smart component over here. Here, let me draw a little brain. It's a brain. Right? And we're going to need a smart component over here as well, because this guy needs to get the information from Firebase to put it inside of our invoice. So we're going to need another smart guy over here. So for now, let's work on this smart guy.
So we can make a smart two smart computers?
Yes. You can have as many as you want.
Oh,
Yeah. So let's make our first Mr. Smarty guy over here. Let's go class, and I'm going to call it the controlled form. You can call it anything you want, but this method we're doing is called a controlled input or a controlled form. So I'm just naming it exactly according to the technique. So you guys remember how to make your smart component, right? We say extend React component, which basically means that we are, we're getting a lot of the code made already for us by taking it from the stuff provided, and we're adding a little bit on top of it. Quick quiz. What is the first function that I will put inside my smart guy component here?
State?
Yes. Oh, burn. Point nare. We're going to make the constructor first of all. There we go. Chance to recover here, Mike. What is the particular function call that I need to put first in my constructor? This is the one where my newly made component here talks to the React component, says, I'm here. Hey, Papa, I'm born. It's like the baby crying. Anybody remember? Yes, I heard it. Somebody got it. Super. So we call it super. And the other thing I would suggest is that we're going to give him an empty memory right now. We'll set his state just to be an empty object. Because we're basically going to fill it up with what you're typing into this form. So we're going to start off with it being empty. After that, we can sort of just plan what we need this form to do. We'll make a couple little blank functions and then we'll fill them in.
I'm just wondering, can you change the super and this state?
No,
Or no?
no. They are specific to React. Yeah.
Constructor as well?
Yes. In fact, any class in JavaScript always has a constructor, even if you're not using React. So we're going to wind up with something like this. It's going to have some labels. It's going to have some input fields, This is where you'll have to do a little bit of work here, because depending on what you want to show in your invoice, you're going to need some fields for that. But you can imagine one of them is probably your client name, Another one's maybe a little text input area where you describe the project, something like that. It's whatever you want to do. Then we're going to have a submit button down here. And when we hit that submit, we should see it automatically showing up over here because of the real-time features of Firebase. So inside of here, we're going to use some of those components we've already made, and they will be inside of our controlled form. All right? Let's see if we can get a simple version of this showing up on the stage. Let's see here. Okay, so let's put a render function in here. But the thing we remember about our smart component here is he doesn't really do anything himself. Exactly right, he needs a helper. So let's put our return here. And inside of the return, let's put his helper, which is going to be the form. we'll give it one attribute called a key here. And you can put any value you want in the key here. I just called mine like article form, like this. And then we'll close the form, just like we would with any regular form. So this is kind of the nice thing about working this way. It's like you're really just building it the same way you would build any HTML form, but it's automatically going to have its styles, which is nice. Throw an input in there. Let's put an input in. So input, key, I'll call it like the client name input, something like this. Now an input, you don't, with an input, you can just close it like this. You can use the abbreviated form. I mean, you could also do it like this, right? But if you want to save yourself a little bit of typing, you can do the inline close just like this. You know, I think I want one more component. I think I want a text area. Yeah, let's see. Oh, sorry guys. I got a little error there. I don't have a component called input. I have one called input field here. That's my bad. So let me update that. Input field. So this is going to be like a single line input, but I'm thinking I also want to be able to describe this project that I'm building them for. So for something like that, you probably want to use like a text area rather than just a single input. So let's make one of those for ourselves. So I'll go text area field equals styled text area. And I'll give him a width of 100% as well. And then I'll put him right underneath of that input field here. So that's the text area field. We'll give him a key also, which is like project description maybe? And then I'm thinking we need one more thing. Submit button, right? Is that what we called it?
Yeah.
Submit button? Yeah, submit button. And then we're going to give him a type called submit and a value, which will basically be his label.
also say name or no?
With a button, we probably don't need to, but we probably will need to with the text areas there. Let's just see if he'll show up on the screen. So let's go down to our UI, and why don't we try and drop them in the first column here, underneath of this H3. So we called it the controlled form. Hi-oh! It's starting to happen.
Instead of waiting for a break, you said battery break?
Yeah, we about halfway?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you get your little form showing up here, let's take a quickie break. Grab a coffee or whatever, and I'm gonna refresh my batteries. Take like 10 minutes. Sounds good? We're making pretty good progress. While you guys are taking a quick break, I'll do a quick little debug session with Emily. If anybody is tuning in on the stream, it's going to go silent for a second. I just got to swap the batteries in my microphone here. Going silent in 3, 2, 1. We should have volume again.
I was running your code pen and mine side by side. It slowed the computer down. Ridiculous.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Does this code pen use a lot of graphics?
Not really. No. Not really. It shouldn't.
Maybe I have something else.
Or the network is just having issues. Hey.
My lesson 4, the last 4, I try to figure something, but the box is not set appropriately.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll be looking at it later today. So.
Today, what time we check our lab board?
Well, sometime after class,
Oh my goodness.
depending what emails I have and stuff.
Because I have a class after, so I hope we check in the evening time. I just want to figure it out.
Okay, maybe I'll look late. Okay, no problem. Okay, you were having a problem there, Emily? Let's take a look. Let's see, anything in here? Huh. Oh, something with the super. I wonder, let's take a look at your controlled form here. Let's see. Super, that looks pretty good. I wonder if there's something else. Maybe they're closing curly brace? No, it looks like it's there. This looks okay to me. I don't see any issue with that. And Babel is turned on, so that's okay. Is there any, do you have any other smart components in here? Or just the one? Okay. Constructor spelt okay. This looks all right. This looks all right. Do you have the script tag for React? Yeah, it looks like it. Something funny going on. Well, like one little thing, but I don't think this is it. You got a trailing comma here. on your object, but I can't see that being the problem. That looks okay. That looks good too. What are we missing? What are we missing? There's something I'm not seeing here.
Component, no, doesn't matter.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's, you're neck and neck with Nari now. You are both even. That's got to be a capital C on React.component. So that, but there's something else here. Oh, input is not defined. That's my bad. Right here where you've got input.
Input field.
Yeah, we called it input field. Oh, that works too. There we go.
All these customizations, man. There you go.
That's it. That's it. Oh yeah? Do you want to shoot me a link there, Nita? Okay. Let's take a look. Let's see. Let's see what it thinks is the problem. So it looks like it's not liking something down here.
Because her render thing at the React doc, it's not supposed to be that color, green.
Yeah.
Something's input.
Yeah, something is not closed here, I would say.
Return.
I think the return is to close the card blanket instead of allow the blanket under the render.
Somewhere down here in the render?
And then you have to use the round blanket.
Oh, yes. I think you're right. This one. That should be round.
Something else because the return's supposed to be yellow and rendered purple, so you have to go higher.
Yeah, something else in here. There's a second thing here.
This state.
There's the constructor. That looks okay. It looks like something up here, right? This does need a semicolon.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that might be it.
Because the width's supposed to be green.
Yeah. It looks weird, doesn't it? Oh, up here. Ah, this needs the little friend of Wiggly Worm. Right there.
Just this little thing destroy everything.
Yep.
Still not there, they still aren't done.
So there's still something, but we're getting there. Let's see. The which? Right down here?
I have the same thing, the unexpected identifier.
Uh-huh, okay. Let's see.
Which means somewhere in her thing, there's an extra.
When I see that one,
I had it earlier too. I had to replace everything you had inside the page.
Oh,
So something is not closed up. An extra thing.
It's right there.
yeah.
At the top there, it's missing one more closed curly brace.
Where?
Just up one line,
Up here?
maybe one more closed curly brace.
Oh, right, because that's the end of the render function. So here, let's move these over. And we'll put one more in. And come on. Let's check the console. Anything? Nothing in the console. What's up? Let me fork it so I can refresh it. Oh, here we go.
See it, but not the input part.
So we got an input field here.
Should we name our text area field then?
Oh, you know what? You just didn't add it to your UI. So right here, here's where we're going to enter the invoice.
Control.
So let's add your
How do we not see that?
controlled for. And I think, there you go. There you go.
One
Yep.
for Tim.
There we go. Yeah, I picked up one in the end there. You know, probably the most important one, but
You can't have any points.
I have a problem in my phone.
okay.
There is
Wait, Nari, you
Yes. I didn't send it. I think I
All right, well, let's take a look at this one for Patricia first. Let's see. Anything in the console? Okay, we got something. So it says text area field is not defined. I think it might just be like maybe a typo. Let's see, we've got column, flexband, form, submit, input. You need a text. You need a text area field, Patricia. Yeah. So let's make one. So let's go up here. We'll say const text area field. Yeah, just like this. Wait, is it capital A? It's like this, right? Text area. There we go. So then you can put whatever styles you want. So let's just put like a width 100%. There we go. And then I think, yeah, that's all you need. So if you just put that little chunk right there, then you'll be in business.
Now everyone's distracted.
Yeah. Delete one. I think I found it.
Did you catch that, Patricia? We added one more component.
Is it the intent? A good rule of thumb is probably come up with the design separately, and then understand what components you'll need, build the components, and then lay them out. Is that a good way?
Yeah, I usually will just start with a sketch because that gets me thinking about my rows and columns and what I'm going to need in it.
Right.
And then I'll bust out like just the basic layout versions of it and then just refine it more as I go. Yeah.
Let me change that.
So we're doing pretty good here. We're going to do one more step. We're going to make a few more stateless functions, a few more little minions here.
The button is an input tag. Your code, there is where is the button? Button is input?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
why?
Well, I'm going to show you one more trick. We're not quite there yet.
But yours doesn't look like a. This looks like a button.
Well, technically, in a form, like a button is defined as an input, but with a certain type.
Mine doesn't. Mine looks like a.
Did you put the type?
Yeah.
I've got one request.
Did you put type equals submit?
No, I didn't.
Aha.
So is that this specific thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Buttons inside a form are just another input, but with a certain type. I like that sound.
I've got one request. I know we've done it already, but just so I can refresh, going over the part where you do the controlled form and the super and the minion and the state, that kind of thing. Kind of I want you to just go over it one more time.
Sure.
Maybe just kind of go over it again.
Yep. As we go, we're going to add a couple more custom functions inside of this guy. And those will be a good chance to talk about what's going on. Okay, you guys ready to do a little bit more stuff here? So you'll notice this third component here, this submit button, how I added a type and a value to it. This is a good opportunity to show how you can use stateless functions for controlled components like a button. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to make another const up here. And this one I'm just going to call submit. And he's going to be like a regular dumb component if you prefer. And inside of his return, here's what he's going to do. he's going to return our submit button. And we're going to set the type up here so that anytime we use this component, it just automatically sets the type for us. Because a couple of people actually hit it where like they didn't have the type in there, so it didn't look like a button. It looked like just an input. So this will take care of that for us. I'll show you what I mean. We're going to do a quick little swap here. Right? Now because I've made this one called submit, I can use him right here and I can get rid of all this stuff. You see what I mean? We've swapped it, right? So we've taken care of that situation where maybe we might forget to put in the type. Right? So we've made a single purpose component here called submit with a capital S, and he automatically sets the type and the value. And we can just use him whenever we want. Inside, he's returning our styled version. So he's going to pick up automatically any styles we've applied to submit button. So it's kind of like a three-step process here, right? We have our stateless function that returns a styled version of the thing and automatically sets any attributes we need. You see what we did there? So we've got our styled component. Then we've got this guy called submit who gives us one of those styled components, but he adds on the attributes we need. So at the end of the day, we've got now a really reusable little component here. All we have to do is pop in submit, and he'll automatically look like a button. He'll automatically have a label called submit, and he'll automatically be styled. Now he's like very reusable. It doesn't surprise me. We did a few things there. Now what we're going to do is create something similar for our text field and our input field, right? So in the end, we'll just have like a text area and an input, and they'll be very simple, simpler than what we currently have. But let's just make sure that that submit button is in there first. So here's what we did, guys. Right here, we made another component, and we just called him submit. And inside, he returns our styled up submit button. So if we drop this guy into our form, he should have everything he needs. His type is set, his value is set, and he's styled. We call this overloading, or a controlled component. Let's see if we can do the same thing for our input. So let's go maybe underneath our submit button here, and we'll make an input. Just like that. We'll give him his return as well.
Why are we putting a prop symbol when we're not using it?
Oh, we will use it. Yeah. We're not there quite yet, but we will be.
It will be used.
Yeah.
Forcefully.
So inside the return, here's where things can get a little bit interesting. Because typically an input field always needs a label, right? So we can actually put it inside of this. And then anytime we use our brand new input, it'll automatically get a label. Yeah, so we're basically making a component that will automatically be labeled anytime we use it. Let's see, did we make any label? We made this form label, right?
Form label.
Yeah, so let's use him. So inside of our label, let's put a form label.
So you put what?
Is label
Like
like an actual tag?
It's an element? Yeah.
Yes, it's an HTML element. Yeah. That's a good question.
We're not doing that.
We can tell because it's starting with a lowercase letter. So then don't forget to close your form label, just like that. And then underneath of that, we can use our input field. So this is our styled version of the input. Right underneath the label.
It's easier to, can you just get rid of the HTML?
Just like move this down.
Like that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't really need that open anymore. So we're going to make our input field. Now this guy's going to need some attributes here. Yep. So here's a little thing I would suggest doing. Put your closing for the input field, but we want to put a few attributes into this guy, so give yourself a line break right here so we can stack them up. So we'll say type equals text. This is going to be a text input. Like every input has a type. Like a radio button is an input, an options box is an input, a text field, a text area, they're all inputs. And the only way that HTML knows which one we want to use is the type property. So for this guy, we're saying it's going to be text. We'll give him a key. This can be anything really. Now, in a little bit, we're going to circle back and put a couple more properties into this guy. But I think for now, he's pretty good. So let's go back to our little controlled form. And let's change this from input field to just input. Let's see. He should have a label now, right? Yeah, he does. There we go. I think I put like some margin in the label, didn't I? Which, you know, I'll let you guys play around with that.
I don't have this. What? Some label here.
Yeah, so basically now you can style up that label however you want just by putting your styles in form label at this point. And like basically all your labels will all pick up the styles you use here.
Oh, wait. way you stuck the input in there.
Yeah, well, let's see. Oh, I wanted to look in the console.
Console?
Yeah.
This is console.
Yeah, I don't like theirs. Let me see the one from the browser. Yeah, and there. Submit button is not defined. You're missing something.
Did I
So this one here, I think you haven't made, or maybe it's called something different. Go up a little bit. Do you have anything called submit button? The submit button. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Nida, let's take a look. Let me just close a couple tabs here. This is you, Nida? Oh, okay, let's see here. Have you saved? Let me refresh. Is this yours, actually, Nita? Here, maybe I clicked the wrong one. Okay, let's see. Form label is not defined, so you are missing something. You are missing a component. You've got an extra E. That's it. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yep, there you go. Yeah. So that was line 53.
Can I a quick question?
Yep.
What's the key of that?
Key is used by React. If you give a unique key value to each of your components, React will find them faster when it goes to update.
It's a kind of value.
It's basically just a way to make your application run speedier. If you don't put it, it'll still work. But if the thing starts getting big, yeah, exactly. React has to search more. If it has a key, it remembers the key, and then the next time it can update it right away.
So is that like an ID or a tag?
It's kind of like an ID, yeah.
It's only used in React.
That's right. Yeah. Question. You want to shoot me a link? Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, let's see what Molly's got here. All right. Looks like maybe some typo. Let's see if we can find it. We've seen this one. Oh, look. This should be const. Hey-o! Oh, but wait, it's still not working. Hold on. Hold on.
Let's go, Nari.
Let's see. Anything in the console? You know, maybe I just need to refresh. Let me fork and refresh. Yeah, that's it. I just needed to refresh. Hey, this is looking good. I can tell something good is going to come from this. Yeah, that is true. Let's see if we can find out why. It's almost like they are sitting in a row and not a column. Let's check the controlled form. Let's see. Here's our form. Aha! Flex. Yeah, you've got like flex. Otherwise, this is looking great. I like that you put in some styles in there already. Okay. So we've overloaded the regular input the only thing left, oh, sorry, Mike. Let's take a look here. For anybody who's anticipating, we're also going to overload the text area. Okay, so we've done it for the submit button, we've done it for the input, and then we're going to do it for the text area. Oh, that's interesting. Let's take a look. I'm going to guess that that is in the input component, maybe. So there's input field, there's form label, that looks good. So here's input. Form label, Say that again?
Oh, we don't need a space before the closing.
Right here?
No, I mean that after key, some headline, and there's a no space.
Could be, might need a space there, that is true. What are we missing here? Let's check the console. Anything? Nothing in the console.
Did you put input somewhere afterwards, after we built that?
Yes.
Because I didn't put it anywhere afterwards.
Oh, okay, I see. So then that means we can just do this, turn that into an input,
Oh, okay.
and then also this submit button. This can now just be submit. Yeah, there we go. I think,
did something, but I didn't see it.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you made them, and now we just used them. So then the last one is this text area field here. So let's do a little work on that. And then this thing is shaping up pretty good. Text area. Yeah, let's do a text area. So we'll go back here. So there's our submit, there's our input. Let's add another one called a text area. Same as always. Now somebody was mentioning like, why are we putting the props in there? We're not using it. But where we're headed is like, we will be using those props shortly. And we will use them to pass in a function that should get updated when the person's typing. Okay? So pretty shortly, we're going to make some more use of those. But for now, we're just getting our layout in place. Okay. So I want to make sure that my text area has a label also.
Why is that?
Just so the person knows what to do, you know. We'll put in something like enter project description or something like that. So we've got our handy little form label.
Well, like a prompt kind of a thing, prompt user.
Yeah. Something like this. We'll make those dynamic. Okay, and then we'll put in our text area field. And let's give it a key as well. Any old key will do. Pretty simple, right? Nothing too crazy with this guy. Once you've got it made, you can head back to your controlled form and use them. There. Now we've got, we got something going on here. Starting to be more like a form, isn't it?
What did you do? You changed something?
Yeah, that's right. We removed the field.
Okay.
Because, see up here, Amit? We're now getting that text area field inside of the text area. Yeah. They call it overloading. Yeah.
But isn't it makes it a little bit unorganized, that things all go, if elements all over the place? I'm just thinking, I'm not sure.
Well, the thing to note here is we followed the same steps each time. So first we made our styles, right? We said, oh, we'll make it 100% wide, we'll give some margin, some things like that. Then we made the field that those styles should get applied to. So we created our input field. Then we created our input component that uses that field that has the styles applied. It's always those 3 steps every time. Yeah, so you got to do it a few times, but probably what'll happen is you'll wind up using these a couple more times. So for instance, I've got this first input field here. Maybe that's the name of the project. But now that I've got it made, I can just put in another one, and I'll use that one for like, you know, the name of the client. And another one that's maybe like for entering the invoice number, you know, basically whatever we need, we'll be able to build into this form here. We'll just go step by step, but we're starting with like 3 of the most common types of form fields. Okie dokie. Has everybody got their form showing up here? It's a little crowded. Why don't I just like give it some spacing so it's not so bad to look at? Maybe I'll go back to my form label here, and I'll just give it like some margin all around. I'll just be like, I don't know. It's a little better, right? What about my input fields? Maybe I should make it line up on the left. Something like that. Or, I wonder if I do padding. Yeah, see, padding's not going to work because it's putting it inside. You know what I mean? So I'm going to have to go margin for this one. But, you know, it's up to you, however you want to do. You know? Or maybe I'll just add it to my form itself. So let's go back up to my form here. And I'll go like,
Keep it time shifted, approximately 40 minutes.
okay. Okay. You know, that's not bad, right? Like, you can probably picture that with a little more work on those styles, you could make this pretty good looking form. Okay. The next thing I want to do, I want to start detecting the user interaction, right? When the person clicks inside of here and they start typing, I'm going to need to know about that. Because eventually, I want to take that and send it to Firebase. Okay? So step by step, let's just see if we can notice when this form is changing. So let's go back to our smart component, because he's the one who has memory, right? So we'll know it's changed if his memory changes. Makes sense, right? Let's go back to that guy. So we're going to go to our controlled form. Let's put in another function here called onChange. Now this is our own function. This is not part of the lifecycle in React. So you can call it anything you like. But I think onChange makes sense because like I want to know when the form is changing.
Wait, is that the function? Oh, okay.
Okay. When this change happens, we're going to get something called an event. So basically, any kind of mouse interaction or keyboard interaction always triggers what we call an event. And that event has a little bit of information in it. So for instance, with a keyboard event, that information includes like which key you pressed. With a mouse event, it's things like were you clicking, were you rolling over, rolling out, things like that. So we're saying when our form changes, we want to know about it. So for now, let's just put a little console log in here to say like, the form is changing. We hear the phone is ringing.
Sounds like Muppets.
This will be our little tester here. Okay. Let's see if we can detect changes in our first input field. Here's how it's going to work. And this is a really important point, guys. Go down to your input field here. Go right past the key. And we're going to give it a new attribute. Here's how it's going to work. Follow me here. We're going to say action equals, put in some round brackets. We're going to say this dot on change. Yeah, because it's not a click, right? We don't click in an input field. We hear changes in it. Yeah, so we're going to say on change. And here's a little thing you're going to need to do. You're going to say dot bind this. Right? So get this whole little piece of code here. Here's what's happening. We've got an onChange function right here, right? We're going to pass a reference to this function to our child component so that it can talk to its parent, right? So maybe I can illustrate it another way. Let's say you're my child. You're in the will, right? So I give you your first phone, and I'm like, if you have any problems, you're going to call and let me know. And I give you the number that you need to call, right? So now I can go away. I can be doing whatever. And let's say you get in a fight in the schoolyard or whatever. Somebody's picking on you. You're like, you're going to regret this. What do? You call the number I gave you, right? This is us saying, hey, input my child. I'm going to give you this function. If you change, you call this function, and I'll know about it. This is how communication happens in React. The parent always gives a function to the child, then the child calls that function to talk to the parent. It's the only way that it can do it. It does it with props, right? So our input here is now going to have a prop called action. And it can call action, which will trigger this function in the parent. So now he can call his dad. Does that make sense? Let's try it. We're not done yet. We got one or two more things here, but
So the action is the one that's seeing the change, or
say that one more time.
is action the one seeing the change, or is it the function that's seeing the change?
The input component is going to see the change. And when it sees it, it's going to call action, which is basically this function now. So it's a way that he can call a function in his parent. Yeah, that's how they work. Let's give it a try. In another couple lines of code, we should have a little console log action going on. So let me go to my input component. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Yeah, here we go. We'll get this working right away. So let's go to the input component. This little guy we made up here. Here's our input. And give this a try. We're going to say on change. Oops, on change. And then curly braces. Oh, sorry, equals. Sorry, equals. And then you're going to put your curly braces. And here's where the props come in. Props dot action. Do you remember where we're getting action from?
Don't move it.
Here, let me just make more room here. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Our controlled form gave a prop called action to his child. And action equals his onChange function, right? So the end result of it is this. Our child here, when it sees a change, can call his dad and say, hey, Dad, somebody's typing. Someone clicked me. I don't know, whatever. You know? And it always works that way. If you get used to this, React is very consistent. You always handle events this way. So if you do it 1 or 2 times and you get it, you get it forever.
Okay. Action set by props.
So let's follow it through here. Here's our controlled form. Here's our controlled form. It has an input component, and it gives it a prop called action. Well, what is action?
Action is a prop that are unchanged.
Yeah.
Call your daddy.
Yeah, it's our function right here, right? Now, I can talk about this little bind that we used. You might not have seen that before. When we say .bind, we're saying when you go looking for this onChange function, look here, look inside me, the father. Because otherwise, it might be looking in the child, trying to find this onChange, and it won't find it. So we say, no, don't look in your own pockets, like look in my pockets, basically. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly. So this refers to this component, our smart component. Yeah, it's saying look in this, look in me.
In the input component constant, there we put the onChange equal props action. It's we define the props. The action will define the props by props, right?
Yes, any attributes that we put inside of here will go in the props. So we could even put more than one function in here if we want to, but right now we only need one. Yeah.
Then if we need more props, then we have to set the props that name, right?
That's right. Yeah, and each prop needs like a different name. You can't use the same name for 2 props because it will get confused. Yeah. Let's give it a try. Let's open up the console, see if we've got some console log action going on. I think we should, but let's try.
Assumption is the mother of all.
Yeah, I'm going to refresh as well. I think I might have some old console logs in there. Well, are you changing it? Hi-oh!
Yep. Got it.
Ah. So you see how that works, right? That's the eureka moment there. So like every time the value changes here, the smart component now knows about it, right? This is good because like you can kind of picture ahead what we're trying to do here. When this changes, we want to send that to Firebase. And then if we're trying to show the same thing over here, it'll automatically update. It's going to be super sweet, you know? Like as you're typing here, you'll see it being updated over here, which is like going to be a really nice UI.
I don't. I was a little bit off. When you were typing, what were you doing? What was happening?
Watch the console.
The console log.
Yep, as I'm typing. See how it says the form is changing? The form is changing.
And if you don't have that, I mean, there's something.
Then there's something wrong, yeah. You want to shoot me a link?
Yeah, sure.
Let's check it out. Let's do a little debug action here. Let's take a look at what Emirate's got going on. This all looks pretty good. Let's check for any error in case. Looks like it's okay. Now if I type in here, hi-oh. Yeah, you're totally good, dude.
You need to save it, man. Run.
Maybe you might need a refresh or something. Well, have you typed in there? Hey.
I didn't saw it before.
Yeah. You won't see any change if you don't type in it. Is that working pretty good, guys? It's working pretty good, right? Do you think we could also get events for the text area? I bet we can. Shall we do that? It's going to be a very similar process. So let's see if we can hook up a change listener on the text area as well.
Are you doing more stuff?
Yeah, let's do the same for the text area.
Mike's gonna be done.
Really luck off.
Anybody's having an issue? You want me to take a look? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's take a look at Emily's here. Ooh la la! This is coming together. So let's open the console so we can keep an eye on that. We'll try some typing. Ah, no console log. Okay, let's find out why that is. So first step, I'm going to look in the controlled form. Let's look there first. Here we go. Let's see. So here's our input. And it does have the action. Oh, is this a typo? Once changed? Oh, you did. I thought I was onto something. Okay, so that looks good. So then let's look in the input and see if it's maybe using the right prop. Here we go. Let's see. Uh-oh. That's what it is. That unchanged, that is specific to input fields.
But she said that the on was changed after.
That is true, but she called it action, right? So we're calling props action, which we'll call your once changed. But this unchanged, that's specific to HTML. Like that's not React. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Wait, it's not working? Hey. What? Here, let me fork it. Oh, you're right. What? Nari is on fire, man. Killing it today. Woo! Man, what do you have for breakfast? Can you write down what you have for breakfast? You got it.
It works, yeah.
You got it. You got it.
Thank you.
That's it. Great. Anybody else? Let me take a look. Yeah.
Just send the pens to Nari.
Yeah, really. I could have stayed home. Okay, let's take a look at Sunny. Something over here. Let's see what we got. So something is not liking up in here. Why do I feel like it's actually something above here?
Approximately 20 minutes left for it.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to. I might have to move along here. I'm thinking there's maybe something right in this area, Sunny. It's a little hard to tell because like it's encountering a problem right here,
Yeah.
but I think it's actually something above.
I make close the page because I make this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's open the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you just need the close of the page. Oh, that sounds right. Page row. I think maybe one of these is not closed because it's not highlighting. So page, and there's row, and then menu bar. Yeah, and row. Yeah, that looks good. What about here? Let's check the console, see if anything is showing. Nope, looks okay. There's something we're missing in here.
I don't know why it doesn't work.
That one's that. What about banner? Do we actually have a banner component? Oh. Oh, yep, there it is. Thought I might be onto something.
Because I make the top menu and then I support in this page. Is it right or the?
It looks like it. Let's try something really quick. We'll just try remove it, and then if it works, then we know where the problem is. No, so something else. Oh my God, I forgot that was turned off. Okay. Aha, what is this? Bind of undefined, eh? Okay, we're onto something here. So we'll just temporarily remove that, and let's see if we can track down the problem. Bind of undefined. Do we have an unchange? Oh, that's it. The small typo.
Yeah.
I bet you that's it. Hey, and I bet you can bring back your menu bar, and it should be fine. This is looking great. So yeah, it's just a capital Z. Bah! Code! All right. Okay, so I want to quickly add a change listener for the text area as well. Let's see if we can do it. So let's go back to our controlled component. Oh, we just get warmed up. We may not get to the submitting to Firebase. We'll see.
Controlled form.
Controlled form, sorry. Thank you.
Send us to Firebase homework.
So we're going to do the same thing that we did for the input. Let's give it a prop. Now I'm saying action, but you can call props anything you want, right? So it's up to you. But we'll say this dot onChange dot bind to this.
Aren't we using it twice now?
Yeah, we're actually going to use the same function for hearing all changes. Yeah. So then let's go back to the text area. Yeah, Emily's on the ball. She knows what's up. Let's go to text area. Here we go. And we'll give text area an onChange as well. Props.action. I heard people saying it. You're totally right. Let's see if that one works. So we should be able to hear changes for both of them now.
So you put those tiny little notes in your code. That makes no sense.
Into description area?
Every time.
It's form label.
onChange. There we go. I thought I had an error, but nope, we're all good. So I can hear changes for both of them now, which is pretty good. So I think I have time for just one more small little thing here, which is basically to put these values into memory now. So the parent, the smart component, it hears these changes are happening. Now we just need it to remember them. Okay? So what was your question?
Is that into this state for the memory?
This dot set state. Yeah, you got the idea. You got the idea. Yeah. So let's just go a little bit further here.
I'm not seeing changes in a second.
Oh no? Any errors?
No.
So let's see, what did we do? We added an onChange that calls props.action. Got that one? And then did you also do the bind thing in your controlled form?
Text area.
Right down here? Yep.
Yep, this, yep.
Okay, shoot me a URL. Let's take a look.
Do this quick. Rename action.
Approximately 15 minutes then.
Okay. So I think we're going to call a small audible here. I don't think we're going to get as far as putting it in Firebase.
Thanks to Mike. Slow us down.
Well, it's always a gamble, you know, how far we can get. Let's see here. So bring up my console.
Maybe post a link or something to
I already have. The fourth example on the lab resources is a completed version of what we're doing.
So in the lab resources,
Yep. Oh, that's working, dude. Yeah.
where it says controlled input,
You're all good.
is
Yes. Or no, what lab are you on?
this is on the lab 5.
Lab 5, yeah. Oh, no, sorry, submit to Firebase.
Okay.
That's the completed one, and it's got the stuff in there for Firebase. If you want to get ahead a little bit, that'd be great. I think you're good there, Mike.
Okay, yeah.
That seems to be working.
I think, it was, sorry, it was a bunch of them.
That's all right. So, so we're going to make one more. I've got to continue on. Sorry, I'm getting too far behind here. So, we're going to make one more little change here. We will do it inside of our first input up there. We're going to give it a name. All right? So we're going to give names to our inputs, and that is how we will tell them apart when this change happens. Right? So you see how we've got one function, and it knows about all the changes happening, but we want it to be able to know which field changed. Here's how we'll do it. I'm going to put a name up here. And I will call this like maybe client name. Nope, we gave it a key, but now we're giving it a name. I'll do the same for the text area. Key is only used by React to locate the HTML that should get updated when the screen refreshes. But name, we can use ourselves in our code. Yeah.
Is it okay if they're the same?
Yeah, that should be all right. So I'm setting up this little scenario where I'm basically creating the area where I enter my client's name and some little description about the client. Okay, once you have that, let's go back to our input component, and we'll use that name. So here's my input, and I'm going to add one more attribute here. I'll say name equals, oops, curly brackets, props.name.
Okay, so that will take the input and say, hey, this is the name.
Yeah.
We have a little over 10 minutes, but no less than 10.
We are running out of time.
Yeah, let's just 7 minutes.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have to wind it up here. So here's what I want you guys to do. We didn't quite get as far as submitting to Firebase, but I think we did get far enough that you could flesh out this form here to provide fields for what you need for your invoice. All right? So I've got one here that's going to be for the client name, maybe a little description. Take a look at your invoice and figure out what fields you're going to need for your invoice. All right? So maybe you'll put another little one that'll be the description of the project that you worked on. Maybe there's a field for the client's email address, things like that. Date would be excellent, yeah. Yeah. So add a little bit more on there. And what might be nice is if you can use some of the styles that you created for your invoice and apply them in here. Then it will look really good. It will match, right, on the left and the right-hand side. Sounds good? You guys know what we're headed for here, right? So we're going to have this form submitting what we need to populate our invoice on the other side here. If you want, you could try putting your invoice in this other column here. It should be just copy and paste from your other lab 3. It will tell you how good your responsive is, you know? So that'll be a nice test. So that's what we'll be working on this for the next couple of classes. Tomorrow we'll be back on this as well. So, yeah. Eventually, we're going to create like a secure login so that the client can actually log in to see their invoice. That'll be pretty cool. Yeah. Do some work with your form here and see if you can get the fields you need for your invoice in there. And that'll be pretty good. So we didn't quite get to submitting it into Firebase, but we're almost ready to, because we've already got the config in there for Firebase. So I would say if we had another 20 minutes, we would have this submitting into Firebase. So tomorrow for sure we'll get that working. Sounds good, guys? I don't want to get you in trouble with your next class here, so we'll wind it up there. Anybody who's listening in on the stream, that's it for today. You're basically just going to work on this form and get the form in a place where when we submit it into Firebase, it'll have everything that you need for your invoice. All right, and that's it. Good show.